Hi and welcome. Little technical trouble this evening. So I'm going to wait until I have some folks joining. Thanks, Keith. All right. Hi, Liz. It's Pinot Noir time. Woohoo. So if you will all bear with me, this is only the second time I've ever done it. And last night was really fun. It was a test, but had lots of interest. So we decided to do it again. And I am not the most technical. So we're just rolling with it. Any questions that you have, please go ahead and comment. I won't be able to get to all of them necessarily, but do the best I can. Just waiting for a few more to join. And just so you know, when comments come up, they are delayed. So Keith is next to me helping out. Hi, Liz. Keith is next to me helping out and helping make sure that I cover comments and that things are running smoothly. Hi, Lori Bailey. I'm glad to see you here and hope that the margaritas are good this evening. I know they are. Who's Roxanne? Hi, Greer. Hi, Mar. Marla had a great story about today that I'm going to share it. I don't have time to ask her. Hi, Greer. If it's okay to share, but she went to the store today, even though she is social isolating. She was pretty much the only one in the liquor store, and she picked up some interesting Pinot Noirs. So hopefully she'll share her experiences. Hi, Mike. Hi, Tracy. Welcome. Oh, Roxanne, welcome. I guess I can't see everybody who joins. And here's Nancy getting started with Naomi. And Nancy doesn't often drink wine, so that's why her kids are puzzled. So Nance, thanks for joining. It'd be interesting to see what Les has to say too. And Naomi is definitely an interesting house. And all right, so I'm gonna just get started. It's 7:06. So for those of you who don't know me and don't know what this is all about, unfortunately, we are socially isolating. It's the right thing to do, and I won't make political statements, but this is a great way to socialize virtually, and I've seen more and more people doing it through today. There are virtual yoga classes and meditations and lots of great things to keep us occupied and for us to feel like we are connected. So those of you who are on that don't know me, I run Artisan Wine Group, which is a wine marketing events and tourism company. And so I do these tastings for folks. And really my main thing is wine tasting should not be pretentious. There are lots of pretentious and there are lots of non-pretentious people. The winemakers are the awesome rock stars of the industry, and most of them are farmers. Some of them, Silicon Valley developers, decided they wanted to be farmers. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining. And so it really is a non-pretentious industry, but people start to feel like there are certain rules and things that you need to follow. And I'm here to tell you that as a wine industry professional, there are certain rules, but if you do not follow them, as long as you are polite, that's all that matters. Polite and enjoy yourself. Okay, so go ahead and open your bottle, whatever you have, and feel free to sip along. There aren't many rules. You can comment all you want and ask any questions. I might not get to all of them, but I definitely want to see, love to hear about what you're drinking and also any suggestions at the end of things that you wish I covered or that you'd like to make sure people know. Welcome, Rhonda. Haven't seen you in a while. Rhonda's dialing in from Washington. And Lisa, drinking a Bloody Mary. Thanks, Rich. And you are also welcome if you're drinking beer. We had folks drinking beer last night. Whatever you're drinking, that's fine. We just won't be learning about it unless you share some, recipes or whatever it is. But we are going to focus on Pinot Noir tonight, okay? And the one thing I do want to make sure I say is that definitely everybody needs to be legally 21 plus, okay? So, all right.
Or just don't mention it.
Or just don't mention it. The other thing, as I'm just talking about my company, I do want to just give kind of props to my wine tasting card game, which does blind tastings for you. And there are lots of different ways to play. We'll be looking at some of these tonight, but they give information about tasting notes, okay? So Lisa Gilbert asked, should we keep it similar or go rosé? And that is a great question. We're talking about Pinot Noir tonight, and Pinot Noir is found in blends, it's found in champagne, and it's also found in rosés and sparkling rosés. I would say for the tasting, let's stick to Pinot Noir, and then you can branch out from there. Only because we're going to be talking about dry table wine Pinot Noir. So welcome, Christine. Welcome, Susie. How are you doing? Susan's dialing in from Kansas City, and it's nice to see all of you online. And then a note from last night, and again, hopefully you're all sipping your wine as I'm chatting, but a note from last night. Hi, Marie Chalmers. I can't see, for some reason, I can't see everyone's name. So if I don't greet you by name, that's why, but welcome and thank you all for joining us for this hour. A little distraction from our social isolation, and definitely we have our kids in the other room doing stuff so that we can take an hour to ourselves. And in this time, it's really important to take time for yourself as well, throughout the social isolation. That's really critical. Okay, so just a note about wine prices. Last night we talked about Cabernet Sauvignon, and I made some comments about the price of the wine that I was sharing, and those just happened to be the ones I chose at that time. So the bottom line is, good wine is whatever wine you like. I say this all the time. It's whatever wine you enjoy, and if you don't enjoy wine, then a good drink is whatever you enjoy drinking, okay? It's really, it's important to get that, okay? So when someone says, well, I only paid $10 for my wine, my first question is, do you like it? Do you enjoy it? That's the most important thing, okay? Can you get what we would call a high quality Pinot Noir for $10? Not like and this is the tricky thing, right? So Pinot Noir is very delicate to grow, and they have to make it in low yields. And so it tends to be more expensive because of that reason. And so a less expensive Pinot Noir, it would depend really where you get it from. So any wines that you're buying at the $10 price, it's going to depend on the region that you purchase it from. So if you show me a Mark West, and I don't have one, but a Mark West Pinot Noir, that is, you drink that to drink it, right? And there's a difference, and I always say this too, a difference for between between drinking wine and tasting wine. Drinking wine, great. Sit on your porch and porch sip, have a cocktail, drink a glass of wine. It doesn't matter what you're drinking as long as you enjoy it. When you're wine tasting, it's a little bit, you're bringing in all your senses. And so that's why if you have a higher end wine, you'll taste more structure. A lower end wine, at least for Pinot Noir, is going to be very, very fruit specific. Okay. Hi, Laura, and hi, Holly. Grab your glass of wine and join us. Thank you for joining us. And so we were just jumping into a note about wine prices. And so Greer asked, what's a good price point for Pinot? So my answer is always going to be, it depends where it's from. So you can get a good Pinot Noir from Central Coast, California. And again, good depending on the style that you like. It will be a little fruitier, and that will be, you can do that for around $20. Marla, if you can, I'm laughing at Christine Ryan, who says, thanks for making me feel better about my low wine price choices and by picking good wine based on fun labels. You know what, again, whatever works for you. There's something in every bottle of wine, right? Always something that you can talk about. Marla, I think you picked a $10 or $15 bottle. And I know you're ahead on the tastes already, but if you can tell us anything about price point and where it's from, that would be kind of interesting. Hi, Katina, nice to see you online, and everybody else who's joined. We are just jumping in to drinking our Pinot Noir this evening and talking about wine tasting in general. So last night I had a question about what makes a good Pinot Noir glass. Now this is an enormous comparing it to my head, this is an enormous glass. Pinot Noir glasses do tend to be larger and more bell-shaped, okay? And that's because you really want to experience the aroma. I don't have with me, but if you have a very small glass, it's harder to experience the aroma. And wine is made to be enjoyed even more so because with the aroma and the taste, okay? All right, so that's a little bit about glasses. This could be a Pinot Noir glass. This glass is a glass for anything. These are tulip glasses. I've seen them. I saw them all through Europe. They're absolutely beautiful, and they're showing them more in the US. And right now they are not, nobody specified that what they're supposed to be for, but there's a whole science around glasses that I will not get into. Hi, Stu, welcome. Now, Marla commented that the wine that she bought was $19.99. I would say, no, that's a good, that when you ask good price point, again, a $10 bottle of Pinot Noir is going to be something that is fruit driven. It's fruit forward and it's enjoyable, but it's what we call a porch sipper or a wine cocktail. And that's fine. If that's what you enjoy, you're still going to be able to pull out taste quality tonight. And then as you go up in price, typically you'll have more depth and more structure. Okay, so cheers to all of you. Let's take a sip of the wine. Cheers, Keith. Oh, so good. Okay, so Pinot Noir is a cooler climate grape. It has thin skins, and it became really, really popular with the movie Sideways. And in Sideways, he says F, because there are kids around, F Merlot. And then Pinot Noir was like the pursuit, the elegance, the sexy grape. And believe it or not, after that movie in popular culture, Pinot Noir became the go-to wine because it's so hard to grow, it's very delicate, and it picks up all of the taste of qualities of what's around it. So it's picking up what we call the terroir, the soil, the climate. It picks up all of that. So there are some basic Pinot Noir taste qualities. Okay, so we're gonna, just for those of you who are newcomers, hi Delori, thanks for joining. Those of you who are newcomers, we do in Wine 101, we do a sip, a swirl, smell, snip, sip, no snipping. And so that's just to experience the wine in a way that you have time to think about it rather than just drinking it, okay? So we look at it to make sure there are no faults, and we check out the color, okay? Basic color, what would you guys call this color? Okay, there's a 10-second delay, so it's usually pretty light, and the color we would call it is garnet. Okay, there's a garnet, kind of a darker ruby color to it. This one, the one I'm drinking, is pretty dark, and that's because it's a Sonoma one. So they'll tend to be darker. Okay, so then we're gonna swirl it, and you always want to leave room in the glass. Those of you who love to fill your glasses, it's really hard to swirl, and it's good to use stems so that it's easier to swirl. And we're serving this cool, by the way, 55 degrees. This one's probably 60. It's a little warmer.
Last night you quizzed us.
Yes, I did quiz you last night. I did it wrong. I got nervous. So we forgot to smell it. What does it smell like? It's ruby red, says Tracy. Yep, great. And I see a purple. It's a little lighter than purple. It definitely is a shade of red. And Lisa, yep, garnet, good. Light burgundy. Garnet is better. It's a better color. Okay. Stu. Okay, so Stu asks, how come I always forget that there is sediment at the bottom of the bottle and end up with it in my mouth? Stu, you must be going to the bottom of the bottle. When there's sediment in the bottle, I don't know if I should be replying to this one, but when there's sediment in the bottle, you have to find it. You just have to filter it out. Okay, so definitely ruby or garnet, I would give you points. Okay, so we're gonna smell it and the smell qualities. Okay, what are any? Let's see if anybody did any smell qualities. Yes, Marla says flowers and lilacs. Very good, very good. Okay, excellent. Anything else? Let's see if we can pick out the primary fruit, because that's the first thing we go with. Lisa Adams, yes, earthy and tobacco, always on Pinot Noir, okay? We're all gonna have some different things that we taste, because we're all tasting different Pinot Noirs from all over the world. But whenever you taste a Pinot Noir, you can bet that there are going to be some specific taste qualities, okay? Delicious, yep, that's a good descriptor, Tracy. All right, so here's what we are smelling. If you smell flowers, that is fantastic. Cherries, raspberries, strawberries. And again, this one's a heavier one, but a lot of them are lighter colored because Pinot Noir has a thinner skin. Okay. And then as Pinot Noir ages, and so you can check your notes or your bottle. But as it ages, it can develop more vegetal and barnyard aromas, and those help with complexity of the wine. Okay, so Christine has cherry, that's correct. Leather, Liz, absolutely, yep. Apple and raspberry. So for Tracy, I would say it's mostly red berry. I wouldn't go with the apple for this one. Fruity leather, yep, okay. Very fruity. Now, Lisa Gilbert calls out, which is really interesting, there's a lot of flavor but less nose. So oftentimes the New World, California, depending on the style, New Zealand, Australia, those New World Pinot Noirs are going to have more fruit. Oh, definitely Central Coast California will have more fruit and less earth. And so that can translate into less aroma. This one definitely has more fruit on the nose. Okay, and I am drinking, where's the bottle? Okay. So I am drinking Flanagan Pinot Noir. It's a 2017. Not a lot of tannin, not a lot of acid. You won't find a lot of tannin on Pinot Noirs. More earthiness in Burgundy. This one, if you can see the label, he's out of Pinot Noir, he's out of the Sonoma Coast, and he has 3 daughters who work with him, and he actually advises a lot of different wineries when they are struggling. He's very into sustainability and organics, and his oldest daughter is now making her own wine. And Keith and I visited there 2 years ago, and they gave us, they spent 3 hours with us. They were fantastic, beautiful property, and it overlooks all the different mountain ranges in Sonoma. So just a little thank you for that. Okay, so back to what we're tasting, okay? So we did the aromas quickly. Cherry, tobacco, earth, flowers, okay? Now, when you taste it, you want to take one small sip, and at that point, your taste buds, depending on how much you've been drinking, your taste buds might be overwhelmed if you haven't tasted it yet, which most of you have. After the first taste, you go for a second taste. Now your palate's ready. Okay. Okay, yeah. All right, so at first, my first taste, I get tons of fruit. My second taste, that's where the earth and the tobacco come in, and that's from the oak. So Pinot Noir is always oaked, and it's usually French oaked. And so I'm just, oh, hi Jenna, welcome. Okay, so some of you have moved on to food pairing, and so while you're tasting and seeing what you taste, so the essential qualities that you're gonna taste are cherries, raspberries, maybe strawberries, so red berries, and then you're also going to get some, you might get some earth out of that, or wet stones or wet leaves, okay? Now, Lisa Gilbert asked, what do you think about breathing through the breathing through the wine? Well, Bill Bailey might want to answer that. He's got his special way of tasting wine. Hi, Tina, how are you? And so anyway, back to, so breathing through the wine, it's when you oxygenate the wine, you're going to get more of a taste quality. Some people really, really emphasize it, and I think it's a little it's dramatic, it's unnecessary, but if it works for you, it works for you. Now you go into a tasting room and you practice that. It's fine if that's how you want to do it. But I don't often see people doing that. Was that diplomatic? Okay. All right. So how do you know? Marla asks, how do you know if you're tasting earth? So if you think about wet leaves or potting soil or a wet day right after it rains and you're walking through the woods, what does that smell like? Okay. Think about what it smells like, what it feels like around you, because wine tasting is really about using all of your senses and your memory. Okay. And that's the key to wine tasting. So if you can kind of envision that smell and then go ahead and smell your wine and taste your wine and see if you can pull that earthiness out. Is there earth in that? Can you get it? I mostly get black cherry and I get tobacco. And I know that by the way it feels on my mouth, in my mouth, and by my memories of what that might be. Okay, so Tracy adds definitely wet stone. Yes, absolutely. So here's the key to wine tasting, okay? And this is something that I've learned over the years. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm WSET Advanced Certified. So and thank you to Adam Chase at Great Experience. He does classes in Boston and in San Francisco and online. And so it's an internationally recognized wine certification. And it was super, super intense. And so before I took the class, I had some words. I had a couple words. I knew that and I used to do at-home wine tastings, I knew that when you taste a Chardonnay and you say apple, they're going to say, yes, that's right. But after doing that class and tasting with the Boston Sommelier Society, what I realized is there are set terms, there are set words that you use when you're wine tasting. And if you can recall them as you're tasting it and kind of check through your checklist, do I taste this, do I taste that? That helps you pull out those words. And so you'll see that some of the friends who have tasted with me have a bunch of those words in store. The card game that I made has all these tasting terms with it, right? And so you can use it as kind of a study guide. As you taste, you flip the cards. Do I taste this? Do I taste that? It helps you. The cards were made specifically to stimulate your senses and your memory, so that they're super graphic, so that you can sit there and say, okay, what did that taste like? Do I taste that in the wine? All right. And so wine tasting is super, super suggestive, but it does start to taste the same. You start to taste similar terms. And so if you're a sommelier, if you're a wine maker, if you work in a wine tasting room, if you're in the industry at all, you are using these same terms, the same exact terms. And so it helps you kind of communicate around that. The other thing that wine terms tell you is how wine will go with food. Okay, so there are some terms that we use always. Now, in my wine card set, and I don't mean to keep plugging it, but I just want to show you this. For each varietal, I have the key terms that go with it. So for Pinot Noir, it's black cherry, red cherry, strawberry, cranberry, violet, black tea. All these things that we are pulling out are called out there. Okay. Now, I'm going to get into. So I see a lot of comments about what people are tasting, so I want to address that. Keith and I have an assortment of cheeses here. Pinot Noir in general goes well with medium meats. It's a very, very versatile food wine. So you can do salmon, because salmon's oily. That's really good with Pinot Noir. Keith is shaking his head because he hates salmon. Duck, chicken, lamb, medium cheeses. So one of the cheeses that's supposed to be really, really good with Pinot Noir is Comte, and I know I pronounce it probably incorrectly, but it's unbelievable with a Pinot Noir. Okay, and so those are some of the cheeses. Now, people asked me last night, and I think it's always important when you're doing wine tasting to call out, what does that mean when something goes well with food? When something goes well with food, what that means, or when wine goes well with food, what that means is they both make each other better, okay? It's like a good relationship, right? If you drink wine on its own, it tastes one way. If you eat food on its own, it tastes another way. When you put them together, if they are better together, than individually, then that is a really good wine pairing, okay? A really bad wine pairing is when you eat something and then you just taste alcohol after. Or you eat something and you only can pull out one characteristic of the wine. Then that's not a good wine pairing, okay? Typically, a rule of thumb is anything salty, okay? Greer is a fantastic chef, and she and I often collaborate and talk about wine and food pairings. And so she says she would pair this with a fattier fish or meat like salmon or tuna, or meat with a heavier sauce. Absolutely, and that tanginess can go with it. And it depends the type of sauce that she has and the type of wine, where the wine's from, okay? So now as we go through this, I just want to call out, we all have different wines in different regions, okay? So I want to challenge you to do this. And I see that I'm only seeing comments from my friends, aside from one. And so I'm just wondering if you can, whoever's interested, go ahead and comment, where is your Pinot Noir from? And what characteristics are you finding other than cherry, raspberry, and earth? Is there something else that you're finding? And then I'm going to talk about what the different regions are that grow Pinot Noir and what they should taste like, the difference in general. Okay. So, yep, Marla's saying the sharp cheeses throw it off. Yep. And if anybody has a good pairing, so mushrooms are really good with a Pinot Noir, a red Burgundy. And so I'm going to try mushroom cheddar, Keith. Truffle raw milk Gouda, truffle Gouda. Oh, okay. So again, the way I know it's really good, nice purchase, Keith. The way that I know it's really good is the truffle cheese was good. Truffle Gouda, I've never had it before, good. And I'm enjoying my wine, but together, oh my gosh. So the wine was an explosion and the truffles were an explosion. Fantastic. Okay. All right, so you guys are now writing in with what you're drinking. Okay, good. All right, so here's the tricky thing when you're trying to figure out, how is my Pinot Noir different than Liz's, different than Lori's, different than Marla's, different than Greer's, different than Tracy's, different than Mary's? How is it different than Christine's? And so here's where Pinot Noir is grown, okay? As I said, it's a cool climate grape, and it's often grown near Chardonnay. They are related to each other. It was created in Burgundy. So when you see red Burgundy, that is a Pinot Noir. That light, thin grape grows in tight clusters that are in the shape of pine cones. And a fine Pinot Noir, they have to be very careful to thin out these big, thick bunches of Pinot Noir. And they have to be really careful with the way they grow it and the canopy management and how much sun, and it has to be cool climate, okay? So, we're red, that's what a red Burgundy is. It is a Pinot Noir. A white Burgundy is Chardonnay. So it originated in Burgundy. And it's not only grown in Burgundy, but it is grown throughout really the whole world. And it's pretty big in Champagne as well. Does anybody know? I'm going to let that one, let you guys figure that one out. Why is it grown in Champagne? Okay. So some top places where it's grown are, and I have to say I've been fortunate to think, oh, hi, Jess Weller. Scott says jammy with blackberry, and Jess thinks it's spicy. Interesting. And that's the Julia James Pinot Noir from California, Sonoma. And Lisa's is out of Sonoma too. Isn't that interesting? Fresh mushrooms. You may actually pick up a little bit of salt. So one of my friends introduced me to sea smoke, and I was fortunate enough to have an older sea smoke Pinot Noir, and it's Central Coast, California, Central Coast, California. Because there's a gap in the mountains there, the sea breeze blows in, sea smoke. And I may be getting the destination wrong, but I remember the fog brings in salt water. And so it's salty, it has a salinity to it. So some of you may find that And I definitely found that in some of the Oregon Pinot Noirs that I had last week. Okay, so again, originated in Burgundy. There's some grown in Champagne, grown all over the world. Oregon, in the Willamette Valley, I was there last week, and I was very, very fortunate to be able to taste Southern Willamette Pinot Noirs and Northern Willamette Pinot Noirs, and it was just an incredible region. I highly recommend it once travel bans are off and you can try them out. But the Willamette Valley has been producing just fantastic Pinot Noirs since, they started being recognized in the late 70s, and they rival Burgundy Pinot Noirs. Okay, California, the Central Coast, the cooler areas, Russian River Valley and Sonoma, and that's because it's a cooler area because of the elevation. They're making beautiful Pinot Noirs as well. Also South Africa, Elgin and Walker Bay. And South Africa actually took Pinot Noir and Cinsault and paired those and created a varietal called Pinotage. And I love it. It's not delicate at all. It's bigger. It's almost like a Malbec or a Merlot, but it's special to South Africa. But there are tons and tons of clones of Pinot Noir, so we're just focused on the main varietal tonight. Australia, when we were in Australia, we were fortunate enough to be in the Yarra Valley and the Mornington Peninsula, and we had fantastic Pinot Noirs, very light, very earthy, lots to them, a lot of depth, a lot of structure. They were beautiful. More Burgundy-esque than New World. And then also in New Zealand. New Zealand is producing Pinot Noir. So it looks to me like, oh, Marla, you got the salt. That's awesome. It looks to me like, so Marla has a Willamette. There's a bunch of Sonoma, which is interesting. I went a Mendocino, yep, Central Coast, Decoy, which is a Duckhorn company making really nice wines. And Lori Bailey, I see you have a California 2018, but I can't tell where it's from. And I'm not going to go up too far, but it looks like California and the Willamette Valley are mostly where people have settled on their Pinot Noirs. I was in Burgundy this summer, and I went to Burgundy, and I only brought home white Burgundies. And now there are high taxes on French Burgundies, so it's red Burgundies. And so it's harder to get, and they are more expensive. Greer had asked, what is the appropriate price point for a Pinot Noir? Most of the Oregon Pinot Noirs that I saw last week were anywhere from $25 for their basic, all the way up to, I think, $120, $130. Now, Pinot Noir will age for 20 years plus. And so it's, if you want an investment, Pinot Noirs are a good investment, and as they age, they get more tobacco, more earth, and they balance out. They're, again, not super tannic, not super high acid, medium to high acid, but anyway, so that's that. Okay, and I should tell you that the third largest production of Pinot Noir, should I let them guess it? They'll never guess. Okay, you guys guess the third largest production of Pinot Noir without looking it up, and I'll get back to it, okay? They typically are 11.5 to 13.5% alcohol, okay? So this is my California Sonoma Pinot Noir, and I definitely am getting that salinity as well. All right, now we're gonna run through some of the tasting notes, okay? So if you have a French Pinot Noir, which no one has, and Liz, yes, Marla, where did you get popovers? Come on. And feel free to post, if you can, any pictures that you have of the food that you're eating with your wine. Lisa Gilbert, Argentina. So your Pinot Noir is from Argentina. That's interesting. They do not have a huge Pinot Noir production because they're known for Malbec. Chile definitely has a decent, oh, Lisa, you're guessing Argentina, got it. And Marla, good for you for supporting local takeout at your local restaurant. So thanks for sharing that. So it's not Argentina. Does anybody else? It looks like nobody else has a guess. Oh, honey butter. Okay. All right. So this is the delay. So the third largest production of Pinot Noir in the world is Germany. And Germany is making some amazing Pinot Noirs just over the French border. So that was new for me.
Germans love Pinot Noir.
Germans love Pinot Noir. However, what do they call them?
Hasselhoff.
They do not call them Pinot Noir. They call them Spot Burgunder. And I'm sure that I did not pronounce that correctly. And nice try in Italy. Italy does grow some Pinot Noir, but it's called Spot Burgunder. Austria has production. Canada has production in Niagara and in the Okanagan. For those of you who have never heard of the Okanagan, you should look it up. I had never heard of it. And at these wine conferences, I've been meeting lots of amazing people from the Okanagan, and there are pictures where it's a huge lake, and it looks like the Caribbean, and they're making some outstanding wines. So highly recommend you look into that. Okay, so I'm gonna stick with those, since we have so many American wines, I'll stick with those. Oh, Joan, hi, Joan. You do not have to make popovers. Are popovers usually a good wine pairing? Not necessarily, but they're definitely a good palate cleanser, as Marla figured out last night. Okay, so Pinot Noirs from France. You get cherry, you get hibiscus, which I've had a hard time putting. I don't think I've ever had. I've smelled hibiscus, but I have a hard time smelling that in wine. Pinot Noirs from Burgundy, you would have rose petal. You'd have mushroom, you'd have potting soil, earth, floral, as we said, and herbaceous. You definitely would have herbs, and it would be low tannins with a little bit of roses and violet. And I will tell you that winemaking practice in France, oftentimes they take the whole cluster of grapes after they harvest it, and they ferment it all together. And that's to bring out the tannins. They take the tannins out of the stems, out of the skins. They do it all together. What do the tannins do for the wine? Well, they help it age. So in the bottle, the tannins are going to help this 20, 25-year aging process to create wines that have just this incredible, vivacious, not just fruit-driven, but this depth of taste. Depth of taste means you taste it and you continue to taste it, and it's fantastic. Okay, great. I love that you guys are sharing recipes. Liz, go ahead and share it right on the comments if you can, or bring it next time. Okay, so let's go to the California Pinot Noirs. The flavors that you're gonna find there, depending. So New World versus Old World. Old World is usually modeled on France and Italy. So Old World is a little bit thinner and a little bit more earthy and a little bit higher acid. Very, very delicate. This you can tell by the colors. This is a bigger, heavier, that's New World, okay? Some producers in California will make wine in the Burgundian style. Same with Oregon. I found Oregon was very delicate and light as well. Okay, so California Pinot Noirs, cherry, raspberry, allspice, tea, vanilla. Now, spices, tea, vanilla, where does that come from? This isn't kind of an interesting thing, actually. Okay, everybody ready? An interesting fact. When you taste the wines, and we talked about the basic tastes that you're getting, those are basic tastes that are found if you took a Pinot Noir grape and made it into wine, okay? Then all of these other pieces that you may get in your wine, those are coming from the soil, the climate, the temperature, the clone, because there are over 50 clones that are used in the Willamette Valley alone of Pinot Noir. And also the rootstock can play a role, the soil, and then the winemaking. And I don't want to make anybody crazy, but it also has to do with the cooperage. So how an oak bottle is, an oak, oak barrel is made. So most people will use French oak. French oak has spice to it, a certain kind of spice. And depending on the person who makes the barrel, it can have different types of spice that you would find in the barrel. And depending on the way they cook it and they toast it and how old it is, that all can affect the taste. And so when I was in Burgundy, they used, it was kind of a point of, people felt like, it was a point of pride that the better houses had more or special or specific coopers who provided their oak barrels. So 5, 6 different kinds of barrels. So when I was just at Joseph Druin in the Willamette Valley, and they were giving us a tour, which you can take a look at my my blog site. I haven't put those up yet, but vinotripping.com is my blog, and I will write about my experience in the Willamette Valley. But when I asked the woman showing me, giving us the tour at Joseph Druin, how many coopers they use, she was surprised and kind of appreciated the fact that I asked that, because that's a really big deal, who makes your barrels and how many. So they used, they had 5 to 6 different coopers that they used to create the barrels and the different flavors, so that if they age Pinot Noir in 5 different kinds of barrels, and then they're going to, the winemaker's going to taste all of them, see what their taste qualities are, and blend them together for their final product. And they have to decide how long they want in each. A winemaker is truly an artist, and you know, they're like rock stars of the wine world. They're pretty spectacular. So, all right, I see that we stopped on recipes, Mar. If anybody has a recipe they want to share, looks like Liz has a great popover recipe. She's welcome to put that recipe on, and Greer, certainly, if you have a recipe that you had been working on, welcome to put that on. All right, so we're at California Pinot Noirs. Sonoma has cooling breezes, morning fog, Southern Napa, Central Coast, they all do. So theirs oftentimes are bigger. The style would be bigger, lush, more fruit forward. Flavors: sweet black cherry, black raspberry, secondary aromas from the oak, vanilla, clove, and caramel. And you can see that in my wine. I don't know if you can, but I'm hoping you can. Okay, really dark, big. If this were Burgundian, you would see me. Okay, and then Oregon Pinot Noirs. So Oregon, the Willamette Valley used to be under the sea, and so they have really, really amazing soils for farming. Hi, Melissa, welcome. Grab a glass and try some. Pour some of your wine. We're talking about Pinot Noir. And we're sharing recipes of popovers, apparently, and talking about, so we've talked about French Burgundy, where Pinot Noir originated. We've talked about California Pinot Noir, and we're talking about Oregon Pinot Noir as well, which again can be made in the Burgundian style, Old World, or the New World style. And so Oregon Pinot Noir is usually a few steps lighter in color and texture than California Pinot Noir, and usually more tart. So cranberry, cherry, fruit flavors with secondary aromas of truffle, mushrooms, and even some dandelion stem flavor. Okay. In Australia, they tend to be more, they're darker, but they have some of the lighter, more delicate taste qualities to them. Okay, and so those are overall style. Now, of course, Burgundy, they are held to certain styles and many more regulations. But California, the Willamette, they can choose how they want to make it. All right. So someone mentioned they had a rosé from Pinot Noir. Anybody else have Pinot Noir that is not a red table wine? I'm laughing at Melissa's. Thank you, Melissa. No Pinot Noir in her house, but I appreciate that you think that this is awesome, and I love that we are able to taste wine together. It doesn't matter what kind, and it just feels social. It feels like we're kind of all gathered together. So I have to tell you guys a secret. When I was in Burgundy, and we were going from vineyard to vineyard, I didn't find really many wines that I loved. I loved Bordeaux. I loved Left Bank. I loved Right Bank. I loved Champagne. When I went to the Willamette, at in Oregon, every single winery, I found 1 or 2 wines that I like. Does that mean that Burgundy doesn't make good wines? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It means that for my palate, Willamette, Oregon's Pinot Noirs are a great match for me. They're more medium. They can be lighter. They can be heavier. Okay, and I do want to give a shout out because I know Rhonda works in the Washington wineries. Washington State is making some amazing Pinots too. They are not very far from the Willamette Valley, and there's a lot of collaboration going on there. I went to a wine conference there last year in Walla Walla, and when we went, there was a district right over the river from where we were staying in Walla Walla, and there I don't have any of their Pinot Noirs. They're 200 plus, but we got to try them, and they were unbelievable. And they were salty because there was the soil there has a lot of, it used to be, it's an ancient seabed, and so it was incredible. All right, so Marla is getting back to what she's smelling. Oh, she's opening her next Pinot Noir. Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about it. Christine asks, can't all Pinot Noir be made a red table wine if paired with the right thing? So I'm not sure what you mean by that, Christine. It all can be made if you take all Pinot Noir that's grown. Yes, definitely it can be a red table wine. The problem is because they have to thin the grape clusters so much, it becomes very expensive to make. And so they don't make a lot of basic table wines. Now, that being said, in Champagne, they grow them very close together because they don't need the elegance of the Pinot Noir because they're doing so much else to it. I had an outstanding Washington red sparkling wine, and Rhonda, you might be able to help me with the name, but I think it's Triveri, and they make sparkling wine. There were lots of White House visits there, and they have this Pinot Noir. I think I served it at Wine Group once, Pinot Noir that's sparkling that was unbelievable and elegant and delicate. But if you grow the clusters and you don't thin them out and you grow them together and you're not mindful of how much, how rich the soil is and how much water, it will just be really big and watered down. It won't be elegant. And there are lots of those around, absolutely. Table wine, okay, Liz, great question. What does table wine mean? Table wine, I envision as wine in Italy or France that you just put on the table for your meal. So we were in Paris, we weren't sure what to order at that point. We ordered their typical table wine. It's usually a basic wine and lots of fruit. Probably instead of being made by the more exclusive regions, it's usually been made by the village. And sometimes it's from several different vineyards, leftover grapes, and they put it all together and make wines. The thing is, usually in France and Italy, their table wines are definitely a higher level than what we get here. But I think in general, we would call them our cocktail wines or our porch sippers. And so those would be just I think we call them the sip around the pool wines. That's the connotation for table wine. And I think Christine in general meant it. She was just in Italy, and they would just have the basic house wine. And again, if you're talking about a table wine in Italy, that here, it's going to be a Chianti. It's going to be a Sangiovese wine. And that itself, usually they're pretty good, or they won't make it anywhere. But they don't often get sold here, okay? So Marla's just smelling the bottle that's been open all this time, and then you just picked up on cinnamon. Interesting. And so if we look at, let's see what time it is. We have about 10 minutes. So if we look at those of you who have the card game, I showed you these already, but what you can do, so I separated out ones that were red card specific. So blackberry, farmyard, black tea, okay? And what you can do, and we practiced this a little yesterday, but those of you who have the card game, if you put it next to you and you sip your wine and then you flip the cards and you hold on to the ones that you think match, and you can set a timer or you can take your time and look at it and say, okay, the one that I have you might not want to focus on, but it's gamey, okay? So it's a slightly lighter, more fragrant character reminiscent of hung pheasants and farmyard aromas. Old world winemakers seek out this character, maybe a fault in new wine. All right, so if you can you look at the card for a minute, what might that, I don't know, is it an elk? What might that elk smell like? And then taste your wine and see if you can pick it up. That is the best way to learn how to detect things, notes, different smells and notes of wine. Hi, Cubic, welcome. And Sherry, thank you so much for joining us. And wine tasting solitaire, that's right, Liz. And that's exactly what I call it. So I came up with about 13 different games that go with this deck. And I don't know quite how to capture it on camera. But if you look at my website, thatpartyinabox.com, it lists out in the blog section all the different ways to use the game. So you can play war if you're with your friend or husband or boyfriend or whatever, girlfriend. You can, and then what I just demonstrated was solitaire with the wine cards. And so you get a point for every one you get right, and you lose a point for the ones that you chose that you thought matched that didn't match. And all these terms are the same terms that the sommeliers use. Okay. All right. What other questions? Let's see. We went through. If you have any other questions, go ahead and send them out. I don't think I answered nobody got it, or maybe I did. The third largest wine producing area, which was Germany, for Pinot Noir, which is huge. Okay. So again, Pinot Noir is meant to be delicate and light and elegant and sexy, but it can be just big and jammy and fruity. When you do a wine tasting, let's say you're doing, like if I taste with the Boston Sommelier Society, right? And they say, hey, tonight we're doing Pinot Noir, then what you have to do, you have to pick something that's true to the varietal. So it would have to be either Burgundian or Oregon true. So it can't be something that's made in the Burgundian style, but made in Oregon, or nobody would ever pick it out. Pinot Noirs can taste like Cab. They can taste like Merlot. Lots of different wines can taste like other wines when you're blind tasting. And so that's kind of the key, is to pick wines that are true to the varietal when you're doing a blind tasting. Okay. All right, let's see, what else? Did anybody figure out why these regions that I've called out that make Pinot Noir, did anybody figure out why they are good regions for Pinot Noir? Leave you guys with that for a minute. Okay, good palate cleansers. All right, so Jess Weller answers cooler. So yes, they're cooler climates, and they have the ocean breeze to moderate the coolness. So because Pinot Noir there's such tight clusters, and as Mike says, coastal, that's correct, because those coastal breezes will lift the winds and move the winds. Because Pinot Noir there's such tight clusters of grapes, they're very, very, and thin skins, they're very susceptible to rot and to fungus. And so you really need to be in an environment that moves the wind around, that moves the wind through the vineyards. So good answer, guys. Climate and earth, that's right, climate and earth, great for that area. Okay, so so some of these wines that I experienced in the Willamette are lighter in color, almost like a strawberry color, much lighter, and they'll go with lighter foods. So we have over here, we have the truffle Gouda, which was a little bit, it's a medium cheese. This is Keith, what's this one?
Bourbon Gouda or just Gouda?
Okay, so we have three different types of
sharp cheddar.
Sharp cheddar. All right, I'm giving the sharp cheddar a try. And that's good. It's not as good as the truffle cheese, but it's definitely good. Okay, what other questions do we have? Okay, definitely some more information. Pinot Noir and Chardonnay are related, which is why they're often grown together. I said that before. And it's the same thing with Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc. They're related, so they're often grown together. That's why in Bordeaux, you have a white Bordeaux and a red Bordeaux. Same thing with Burgundy. Red Burgundy is Pinot Noir, and white Burgundy is Chardonnay. And I have to say, as I told you before, Burgundy, I didn't love the reds as much. The white Burgundies are absolutely my favorite. So, and Marla's gotten some caramel now. Yeah. Okay. So this is exactly why this kind of stuff is fun. Thank you, Marla, for adding that. As you keep tasting it, and I don't mean that you're getting more inebriated, but you likely are. But as you keep tasting wine, it takes on different character because it's oxygenating. So it's sitting in your glass for a while. It's warming a little. So we definitely taste more the warmer a wine is. And then as you eat things, it can bring out different taste qualities. So when I go out to eat and someone says, what should I order for wine? I always say, well, what are you eating? And then people will share, and I'll, there's general rule, and I always know that. And so there, I always know that, but in general, if you have a wine that is of quality, it will keep opening up through the meal, and it will taste different from the first time you opened it until the end. Okay, great question, Tina. And hi, Tina. What do you recommend for a good Pinot Noir that you can get in New Hampshire? So that's a great question. So the Minor, let's see, those of you who know me know this is one of my favorite labels, Minor. I'm looking into which of the Willamette wineries, most of them couldn't ship to New Hampshire, which was a bummer, but here's my hot kiln. Okay. This one I didn't present because I ruined the label, but I can show you HK. But I know the New Hampshire liquor store has a lot of it. I often, those of you who have worked with me before and have done wine tastings with me before know I always suggest getting Vivino, because as you continue to wine taste and learn the terms of the wine that you like. So, hey, Alison, I like cherry, I like red fruits, and I like some acid and tannin. I don't know if anybody would say that, but if you say that to me, I could say to you, okay, so that's what you're gonna look for when you go to Vivino online and you download that app. You take a picture of the label and it brings up all the tasting notes. And even though the tasting notes are from just other people tasting around the world, it's okay because it tells you how much that will match what you like. Okay, so that's a great question. So I do recommend that. I will tell you this as well. Pinot Noir, because it became like a big thing, everybody ran out to buy it from Sideways. That was many years ago. But now Pinot Noir is still considered the most elegant and decadent wine. Elegant, maybe not decadent, but China was the #1 purchaser of Pinot Noir in the world. So I don't mean to capitalize, and the coronavirus is awful, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw reduced prices in New Hampshire at the liquor store on Pinot Noir. Okay, Liz, thank you for your recipe. Welcome, Chris. And Lisa Gilbert comments on how her character is changing too after drinking. I mean, probably mine is too, although I haven't drank as much this time. I think I'm talking a little more. Okay, Lisa Gilbert points out that she has Maison L'Envoi Power Buy at New Hampshire Liquor Store. And so if you look at, and we're just about done here, but if you take a look in New Hampshire at the Power Buys, we have a buyer who runs the state of New Hampshire wine purchases, and she insists that if you're gonna sell into New Hampshire, that you give a deal. And that's why a lot of the Power Buys are really, really good. So keep an eye on that. Those of you in the rest of the country are very fortunate. Massachusetts, you can ship in from almost anywhere. And as I mentioned on my website, a lot of companies right now, a lot of wineries are doing free shipping. And if anybody wants to start to post if you get one, I've been meaning to, but definitely post if you get a wine tasting, a free shipping. But again, it's hard in New Hampshire. And Rhonda, in Washington, you guys would have a totally different Pinot Noir, option. So if you have any favorites, please share them with us. And Sue, same thing. Okay. So Marla, great question. And as we're finishing up, she's looking for a palate cleanser. She tried crackers yesterday. Popovers are gone. Is water okay? So water doesn't really cleanse your palate, and one of the tricks of the trade is you're not really supposed to rinse your glass with water when you're wine tasting. You're supposed to rinse it with wine because water just waters down the wine you're tasting. So if you're doing real wine tasting, you don't take the water. You take a little bit of wine and swirl. Grocery store's out of bread, so there's no more bread today. I'm sorry, Mar. Thank you all so much for joining. I hope that you learned something today, but at the very least, I hope that this distracted you for a while and gave you some fun and some pleasure in your life. I hope that you all stay safe and healthy, and any of you who are not feeling well, I hope that you feel well soon. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to try this again next Friday night at 7. Thank you.